Lightning's back.
Hey guys, just finished watching Black Lightning, Season 2, Episode 1. Books of Consequences, Chapter 1, Rides of Green Light Babies. Wow, complicated names. But we'll just stick with Season 2, Episode 1. This episode was kind of interesting. The opening was the first thing I saw in the opening here was we see a bunch of police officers beating up this black kid, and he ends up dying and stuff, and it just got me a little bit annoyed that why did all the cops have to be the white and stuff, and I get what they're doing and all that stuff, but I didn't like that. But other than that, the rest of this episode, well, it was pretty fun. We have Jennifer floating in her sleep, a lot of her powers going on a lot throughout this episode. I think I like that. We didn't get any of the season storyline kind of kicking off. We do get tidbits here and there with Black Lightning talking about how he wants to go after Tobias and going after him instead of taking care of fighting the government and the fact that they're holding the green light kids and the kids in the pod kind of hostage and stuff. And I think that's going to be interesting to see where things go with that storyline. That's the storyline I want to keep going after. Whereas the Tobias Whale storyline, so far I'm just let's see where things go. But I want something different. I want something new, not just retreading the same stuff from the last season. And hopefully we can see where things are going with this. And I just would like to see a new storyline from for season 2, rather than just going into having the same storyline again. And now they're just going to build up to where Jennifer's going to have powers too, and they're going to be 3 against his Tobias, and he has less and less people on his side now and stuff. So I just can't wait to see where things are going to go with this. But hopefully Tobias can stay where he is doing his own thing, but then we can get a new character coming into it. Because if we go back to Daredevil season 2, Wilson Fisk is in prison. He's doing his own thing, but we have the Punisher as the antagonist, with the Hand as the villain and stuff. So I think that was the way they should do it like that. They want to keep him around, kind of like Wilson Fisk, and have him come around. Just put him aside for season 2, and then come back to him later when it's fresh. That's why I would have liked to have seen him put into a prison. Maybe he gets halfway through the season, he gets put into a prison and stuff, and we get someone else who's a bigger bad, who's kind of has something different for our Black Lightning and them to go off of. And I think that's really going to be cool to see where things go with that. And playing with more of the superhero in this, and I like to see a villain who actually has powers rather than just Tobias Whales, who has no powers. The thing which makes it so cool between Daredevil and Kingpin is that neither of them really have powers. Daredevil's blind and he has his hyper sense that helps him fight and stuff like that, but other than that, he really doesn't have too much powers. He's a little bit more agile than the average person, but that's about it. He's not really powerful, or he's not going to lift anything super strong like Luke Cage or an Iron Fist, or even as strong as Jessica Jones or anything like that. I think that's really what it comes down to. Whereas here they all have powers. I'd like to see someone with powers, to see powers collide. I think that's really why we watch comic books. We read comic books and we're into all these stuff, is we want to see the powers and stuff. And I think that's really where I'm interested with this. So it's cool seeing Jennifer kind of floating in her sleep and her powers just going berserk. We see the school board is mad at Jefferson, for not being around, and just kind of, for everything that happened in the first season. We see that Kara Fortier fight. Kara Fortier, she's actually the vice president, or was the vice president, who is kind of a mole for the ASI, and she ends up going to Ganby to try and clear her name. And before that, she fights what's her name? I can't think of her name from the show, but one of Tobias's right hand man, or the right hand girl, Cyanide is what they call her here. I think that fight was just so bad. It was kind of weird how that fight was so bad, and yet later on we have Jennifer, Nissa stealing money from the criminals and giving it to the church and stuff, which that fight was really cool, seeing that. And I think it was really interesting seeing that, although I just didn't like it all. I'm not sure if I noticed or I missed stuff, but it looked like all those guys were all white, and I just hate when they're just doing that the race thing. I understand this is what the show is all about and all that stuff, but you just don't need to have all the just don't need to make it clear cut. Like that. I just think it would be a little bit more, mixed and stuff, not just the same. So I think it's kind of interesting to see as to where things are going. How that fight in the car parking lot between the two were kind of terrible. She takes off her high heels and there's spikes in that. What the hell? That's kind of stupid. It was so stupid, so terrible. She has a full on knives or sticks and stuff, and you got these little she has the steel batons. You had these little spikes that come out of your heat. It was so stupid. The idea of that was kind of terrible, and it was just kind of the character there. I'm glad she gets killed at the end of the episode, because that was just kind of just boring and just terrible. But then again, we saw the Anissa fight, and that was really cool. One of the guys hits her across the back with a chair, and it shatters, and then she just kind of runs at him, but doesn't even touch him. And he's back up against the wall, and he's like, his eyes are like almost bulging out of his head. I think that was really cool. It was a really cool moment. And then he cuts away, and you see her kind of launch him out the window. That was really cool. It kind of reminds me of Luke Cage, things like that. I think I really like that. It actually reminds me of the now I think about it, X-Men 2 with Colossus, his first cameo in the X-Men movies, where he kind of, I think Stryker's men are invading the room, and they, I think they're shooting the girl who was like screaming in the X2, and then he comes in and they start shooting him, and he just kind of it kind of camera pans away, and you just see the guys get launched out the window, through the wall type thing. I think that was a really cool moment there. And so I think it's really going to be cool to see where things kind of go with all that. So that fight was kind of bad, but the Jennifer fight was really good when she was stealing the money. The government is keeping the kids away, and if they want to sue the government to get possessions of the people in the pod, the kids in the pod, they have to raise up to like $500,000 for that. And I think that's really going to be cool to see how things go with that. And it's unclear as to how much money Anissa is actually stealing from them. Like, how much money was in that one bag? How much money is in the next bag? If those are all $100 bills, you might get close to there. There might even be $1,000 bills. We don't know. What are in there and how much money was in that bag. Could that have been the backpack could have hold $500,000. Who knows? It would be something interesting to see, especially if all of those each pack was like $1,000, and that's could be 500 of them in there. I think that could make sense and stuff. So I think it's going to be cool to see where things are going to go with that. And I just found it weird. Why would she bring the money back to her place, risk getting caught by her parents, her sister, any one of them? She has to walk all the way up into her room, and her room has like 2 different doorways. One door into her sister's room, one to another. It looked like she had to shut. So it's like the worst place to bring and hide money. And she didn't just climb up the window or anything like that to try and hide it. Just don't know why she didn't just go from the criminal's place straight to the church and drop it off. I guess it's not really a good idea. You don't want to do that in case some of the criminals are following her and stuff. But still, just go a long way around type thing, and make sure you're not being followed. Then drop it off straight away at the church. I just don't see why she had to bring the money back to her place, unless she's skimming some off the top, and just keeping some for herself type thing. Who knows? I could see her maybe doing that and then donating that later on to like the school or something. We'll have to wait and see, but I don't know. I just don't understand why she was, had to bring the money back to her place. It just seemed like a silly move to do that and risk getting caught by her parents and all that stuff, which would ruin everything and not get the money to everyone, because at the end of the day, once it gets out there that the church is going to gets this money and stuff, they're going to use it to help save the, to sue the government and all that stuff. That's going to get out there real fast, and he's going to, he's going to know, her parents are going to know exactly that it's her, it makes sense. She was just talking about it earlier on in this episode, so I just, I don't know why she had to bring that to her place. It was kind of weird. We see Jennifer accidentally burns her mother type thing, and that was a really cool thing to do. She accidentally burns her mother, and we're dealing with that kind of the power setup and stuff, and I really like where things are going to go. I think her storyline so far is the most interesting for this show for me, is the Jennifer and her powers. I think that's really the most interesting storyline there. So the Henderson figures out that Jefferson is Black Lightning. He does it really early on in the episode. He just puts that all together, like all that stuff is happening, and where the hell was Jefferson Pierce during all that stuff? His daughters were in so much trouble. Where was he? Oh, and Black Lightning was there, so of course he was there. So that makes him Black Lightning, which is something from the season 1 that was kind of obvious. Like those domino masks really don't cover much. It would have been cool to see him use his powers to maybe keep himself, next time in the first season he should have done this, is when he was hanging out with people who know him, just like in the Flash, when the people knew the Flash in the first season, when he was trying to keep his identity secret from Iris. He would use his speed and just kind of vibrate his face so that she couldn't see him, and vibrate his voice box so that she couldn't hear him completely. Didn't need to really do that. And then when he's not just hanging out with regular people who don't know Barry Allen, he doesn't need to do any of those things. So I think that's something that Jefferson needs to kind of learn to do that. It looks like Jennifer, her powers are going to be kind of moving enough to kind of distract people and maybe not need to do that. Anissa, she's going out in this new costume. I guess she can't have, a Thunder going out doing all this stuff. So I think I like the way she was doing with that. It's just I would have got a better mask than just the covering up like that. Like, you could totally tell who she was just by her face, especially someone who would recognize her, that church priest guy, who she dropped the money off to. And I think it was kind of, it would have made more sense for, I think they have it here, Reverend Holt. I think Reverend Jeremiah Holt is where they have it here on IMDb. And I think that would have made more sense because he could have recognized her because she goes to the church there, and having a full-on ski mask would have made more sense. Just because that's one thing that, if you're going to commit crimes like this or do things like this, you need to keep everything about you identity. Your skin color should not be a question, because now you know exactly the bad guys who she stole the money from, the criminals. They might have an idea exactly who she is, because they're going to tell their friends if they survive, which they mostly them are left alive for that. They're going to tell their friends, yeah, it was a black female, who attacked us, and that narrows that down so much. Instead of having, completely everything, if she had a ski mask and she couldn't tell what color her skin was, or that she was a female or whatever, then it would make the search so much more difficult and less narrowed to go down. I think that would have made a lot more sense if the way I would have done it. But I guess I understand with these costumes, I prefer that they go a little bit more comic book accurate than doing that, especially when it comes to like Jefferson's his Black Lightning costume or things like that. Although for the Black Lightning costume, they could give him the afro from his first appearance in the original comics and stuff. That could be funny, as if he puts the afro on just for the costume type thing, and that's part of the costume. I think that could be quite cool. And then you also go with the whole like Superman and Clark Kent type thing, but it's Superman, right? So you get that whole different. There we see the kids, some of the kid that got choked out at the beginning of the episode comes back to life, comes back from the dead. So that's kind of cool, but his mother kind of hates him and stuff type thing, or doesn't kind of find that weird. She kind of can't handle that, so that he's coming back to life. So that's going to be cool to see where things go with that, what his powers are. So I think this could be an interesting idea, as to building up a bunch of kids start coming back to life, and Green Light start having powers all over the place, and building up more superpowers. And we're going to get to see Black Lightning actually fight someone who has other powers other than just Khalil. And I like to see, powers versus powers, and not just super strength, right? I like to see that maybe someone has some other superpower. Maybe someone can be like Iceman and shoot fire and all, fire and ice, and someone to be opposite. Maybe someone has they can make a version of kind of like Hydro Man or something like that, who can control water to fight the lightning and stuff. I think it could be definitely interesting just to have give someone some powers to offset Black Lightning, so we can really have like a huge power CGI fight. That's what I really would like to see, because I think it's really going to be cool, and that's what I'm interested. That's what I'm here for when it comes to a comic book TV show. And then Jennifer's powers go a bit crazy, and that's when Jefferson has to kind of absorb them and stuff. So that's really cool to deal with that, and how she's going to learn. Hopefully this whole season will be with her learning to use her powers, and they're really kicking this into high gear with her powers. I love that. The school is they're going to close the school, but he decided to give the boards to tell them that he'd step down to keep the school open. So we'll have to wait and see till next episode whether or not it stays open. I feel like it probably will be, and he'll just kind of step down. That's what he offered and stuff. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. And that's when we see that Kara Fortier is killed by Tobias Wales. While she's fighting him, he shoots her with his harpoon that he has, that he likes using his harpoon, and then she just kind of jumps out the window type thing. So that's going to be cool to see what happens with that. Is that going to bring in maybe the cops and the police to investigate Tobias Wales, and maybe see what's going on with that? Is that her idea, or does she just want to jump out of the window and to end her suffering, and he'll go have some guys go down, clean up the body, and there'll be nothing left? We'll have to wait and see what happens with that, because he was kind of running for mayor, if I remember correctly from last season. He was kind of trying to be kind of like Wilson Fisk did in Daredevil season 1, when he tries to keep putting himself out there to kind of make himself look like a good person, and good press and all that stuff. And then and then that's when Daredevil and them had to kind of bring all take the rug out from underneath him and show everyone who he really is. I think, is that going to be any of play in here? Is this Kara jumping out of the window kind of be something to do with that, or is he just going to clean it up and it's going to be nothing, nowhere, and he doesn't get to torture her like he wanted to, right? Maybe that's just the the outcome there. So I'll have to wait and see what happens with all that. But I'm kind of excited to see where things go with this show. But right now, I'm really not. I'm really more excited with all the other shows. This is kind of, especially the DC shows, is at one of the bottom of my list. But we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see where things go with this show. It's kind of getting interested and really excited for the Jennifer stuff. But we'll see where things go for the rest of the show. So I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.
I'm Captain America, here to talk to you about one of the most valuable traits a soldier or student can have.
Subscribing.
Sometimes subscribing is the key to victory. Sometimes it leads to very little, and it seems like it's not worth it. And you wonder why you waited so long for something so disappointing. How many more of these?
You're still here.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Peace.
It's over.